Hello everyone. So today I have a PSA. And that PSA is discrimination is discrimination. Doesn't matter what it's on. And I know that's kind of a hot take because um some people may disagree and say that racism is the worst kind of discrimination, or homophobia is the worst kind of discrimination. I haven't really seen people talk about homophobia like that. But what I want to say is um you know, I'm tired of people thinking that discrimination against developmentally delayed people um, is not a big deal. That they just need to adapt. No, fuck that shit. I don't believe in that. Because honestly, you know, people who have developmental delays already get bullied enough, and I think it's just messed up when their parents also decide that they have to be quote unquote normal. But anyways, I'll go over what the complaints of people who are against my position. So I remember back in 2015, I made a video comparing words to each other, like bad words, and looking back at it now, I was wrong. What I should have talked about was the ableism and racism and homophobia as being discrimination, and that and that people shouldn't like gatekeep trauma, because I think that's just messed up. Some people may say, oh well, racism has a history, or oh, the N-word's been has a big history to it. But it's like, okay, you're right about the word, but what I'm saying is um, ableism itself has been around since the beginning of time. Racism wasn't really considered an issue until the 1500s when people I believe it's the 1500s. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 1500s you know when people were trying to get an excuse or make an excuse to have certain people be their slaves, and some people thought, oh well, we can make people from Africa our slaves because because they have different skin color or different skin tones, so they're less than us. That's exactly how it went, and people when they traveled to America, what happened was I learned a lot about this in history, but what I learned is that they had a hierarchy of which race got treated the best. And some people, it wasn't really about whether your skin was white. I mean, a lot of times it was about that, but there were some people who were Native American or Mexican who could buy themselves into whiteness. Like that's what I learned in history. But anyways, ableism has been around since the beginning of time. If you were around during the days where it was the gathering days, I just have to say if you were disabled in any way, you were as good as dead. Like some people actually killed other people. You know, and I say that because I believe it probably is true, most likely, because it didn't take until the 1970s when people finally decided to not put disabled people in mental institutions when they're developmentally delayed like that. And what I want to say is, imagine when it was years and years and years before. I'm sure if people had broken bones, they would just leave them there to die. If people were nonverbal, or if people were severely autistic, I'm sure people would probably try to kill them because they're deemed not worthy, and that we need to save strength for the guys who can survive. It's about this Darwinism era, and that's why I think it's ableism's been around since the beginning of time, and that's what I have to say. It really really annoys me when people say, "Oh, stop using disability as an excuse," because like when it comes to typically developing people, whether they're kids or old men or old women or even middle age, it's like, oh, the attitude is, oh, well, that's just their age. No one ever says, stop using your age as an excuse to an old man who can't walk that well. I mean, yes, some old men can walk, can run, but not all of them can, and no one is doing that. Just like no one can look at a kid and say they should be in college by now when they're like 6 years old. When really, when really only geniuses are able to go to college. Like, to me, that just doesn't make sense. Like, I think developmental delay should also be considered too. So anyways, that's all I have to say. Bye.